E10-3 says McLoyd Company completed the salary and wage payroll for March 2013. The payroll provided the following details. Number one, considering both employee and employer payroll taxes, use the preceding information to calculate the total labor cost. Okay, this is similar to one of the earlier problems that we did. Problem M10-3 dealt with payroll tax liabilities, and this problem deals with the same type of information. The first requirement asks us to consider both the employee and employer payroll taxes. Well, when we look at the information that we have here, we have employee wages of $400,000. So you get this total employee wages of $400,000. Those employee wages encompass any withholdings that are coming from that. This is the total amount that the employee has earned, right? Our goal is to calculate both not only the amount that we pay the employee, but also the amount that the employer pays in addition to the employee's earned wages, so that we can get the total cost of housing that employee, right? We start with the $400,000 that gives us the total amount that the employee earns. That's encompassing anything that we would have withheld from that $400,000 for the employee and then remitted on their behalf to someone else, some other agency. We add to that other taxes incurred by the employer in addition to this, right? So, unemployment tax, they give us unemployment tax is $2,780. We'll add that. This is an employer tax, and it's above and beyond that $400,000. It's something in addition that the employer incurs in order to house the employee. The next thing is FICA. Remember, FICA is made up of Social Security and Medicare. FICA is $28,600 in this example, and the employer pays a matching portion to what the employee pays, right? So the employee gets withheld from their paychecks a total of, if it's multiple employees, I don't know if it's one employee making $400,000, but if there's multiple employees here, they get a total withheld here of $28,600, and then that's remitted by the employer to another agency on the employee's behalf. But then the employer also has to pay an additional matching portion. So this $28,600. If we add up all of these costs here, we get $431,380 as the total employer cost to hire these employees, right? Notice in this problem, we skipped over the employee income taxes withheld to get the total cost. Why? Because that portion would have been withheld from the $400,000, right? But that $400,000 is grossed up. It's the total amount that the employees earn. So from an employer's perspective, this is all the expense. This is a total expense. It's irrespective of what it is that we're going to withhold from that expense. This is the total expense to the employer. Okay? All right, the next part, part 2, says prepare the journal entry to record the payroll for March, including employee deductions, but excluding employer payroll taxes. Employees were paid in March, but amounts withheld were not yet remitted. Okay? All right, so for this example, we have wage expense from the employer. This $400,000, it's all considered wage expense. We're going to debit wage expense to increase it. That's the $400,000, okay? Now, what do we credit? Well, obviously one of these credits are going to be cash, right? Because it tells us in this problem that we pay the employees, but that the other amounts that are withheld were not yet remitted to the agencies that they belong to. So we're obviously going to credit cash to pay the employees. If we didn't credit cash and the employees earned these wages but we didn't yet pay them, then we would have credited an account like wages payable or some other kind of accrued liability account. But in this instance, that tells us that we pay them. But I'm not going to put the amount of cash down here yet because I want to determine whether the other amounts, and we can back into cash from that, right? So we withheld from this amount the income taxes that we excluded in our last problem, but we had employee income taxes of $37,000 here. So we have income tax withholdings for the employee, and I'm going to shorten this out. You could make this a longer title, but I'm going to shorten it out and just say income tax withholding, and it's going to be $37,000. That amount is withheld from this $400,000 on behalf of the employees, will be remitted back. We also have FICA, so I'm going to say FICA withholding. Remember that the employer and employees pay an equal amount, like I said in one of the earlier problems, that was different in one of the years we had a tax break for the employee, but that's now gone back up to an equal amount here. I'm going to put $28,600 for this guy. And then from these amounts, we can find out what the net pay is. Remember, this cash would represent the net pay going to the employee. So if you take the 400,000, subtract out these amounts here, we get $334,400. This is the amount of cash that is actually going to the employees, okay? The last part, part 3, says prepare the journal entry to record the employer's FICA taxes and unemployment taxes. They give us unemployment taxes of $27.80, and we know what the FICA amount was. So we'll debit here. We'll call this payroll tax expense. Okay. And the total amount that we're going to debit is going to be the summation of the two taxes I talked about. So it's $31,380. We'll credit our FICA payable. And in practice, you'd probably want, like from a practical standpoint, from a business standpoint, because there's a matching payment going on here, we have a FICA amount that we pay for the employees and a FICA amount that we pay for the employer. You probably want to keep those in separate accounts so you can make sure that both were matched, okay? Both were actually paid. So I'm going to call this FICA payable. You could call it FICA and some other designation that has something like employer after it, and this would be FICA employee. But some way you'd probably want to designate that between the employer versus the employee. But that amount that they give us is the $28,600, equal to what the employee is paying. And then we'd also do the SUTA or FUTA payable. We'll call this unemployment tax payable. FUTA being federal unemployment tax, SUTA being state unemployment tax. And again, that amount that they gave us here was $27.80. So now our credits equal our debits and the journal entries balance. Why are we dealing with this problem? Again, like we talked about in the first payroll tax problem that we dealt with, these represent liabilities. These withholdings that we have here, these are liabilities. Even though we've held it from the paycheck until we remit it, these are liabilities that we owe to other agencies. We, when I say we, I'm talking about the employer. And the same thing over here. Once we calculate that an employee has earned wages, we then have a related payroll tax expense, we being the employer, have a related payroll tax to those earned wages. So one of them is FICA for the matching portion of FICA that the employees get withheld on, and one of them is unemployment tax based upon a sliding scale for the amount of wages that the employee has earned. Okay? If you have any questions about this problem, please feel free to let me know.